Yes, this is ska, original and indigenous. The music of guitar, saxophone, trumpet, bass, and drums.
One step beyond!
What's up, posers? Welcome to Punkalotto Pod. I'm your co-host, Justin Hensley.
And I am your other co-host, Dylan Hensley.
And happy SKAUGUST! Yes, we're still doing this.
SKAUGUST the 2nd.
Returning to the show is the original guest for SKAUGUST. You may remember her from the Mighty Mighty Bosstones episode we did last year. It is wrestling photographer Zia Hiltey. Zia, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? I'm so happy to be back for SKAUGUST.
We joked about it last year, saying that we were going to do a whole theme month, and then I started planning, and we got one guest lined up, and it was like, okay, we got one lined up, so let's see if Zia wants to come back. And you were down, and then you helped us set up another guest, and then we have another one coming later that's going to be even weirder for us. But we've got a full blown month of ska related things, so.
I'm really proud of you guys. You're really fighting the good ska fight here.
We actually tend to avoid ska records throughout most of the year, specifically for this.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We haven't really done any other ska records since the Mighty Mighty Bosstones, have we?
I don't think so. We did an Aquabats one, but I think that was even before.
Yeah,
the Bosstones.
And you guys did grow up with ska, right?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
ska kids, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Christian ska kids, to
yeah.
be exact.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our dad was kind of into it, so that kind of started it. And then it's just, being a kid in the 90s, you're going to get inundated with ska music and commercials and TV shows and movies. So
Yeah, that's funny. I forgot our dad did buy Let's Face It by the Mighty Mighty Bosstones on CD.
Yeah.
He probably just liked the one song.
Well, the
Bosstones were everywhere. They were on the radio, so it was more palatable for people.
Yeah, and then I feel like you couldn't watch anything on a Saturday morning that didn't have a ska song in it. So commercials for Capri Sun, Mountain Dew, X Games, everything.
The AFV theme song.
Yeah, it is a ska song.
Oh yeah, the original ska hit, the America's Funniest Videos theme song. How could we forget?
That might have started the whole third wave ska thing. Now to think about it. Was that the theme song with Bob Saget, or was that? Yeah, I guess it was, because they just kept the theme song.
It's now your mission to put that on Wikipedia as fact.
The third wave ska punk trend really kicked off with AFB theme song.
So, guys, a lot of people hate third wave ska. Third wave ska doesn't get a lot of love.
Yeah, I had a friend one time say he didn't like ska because it sounded like game show music. It's I get it. But yeah, we talked a little bit last week with the Checkered Cast hosts, and they were talking, what was the reason that they came up with? It was that a lot of the songs don't really mean anything, or it's very nerd-centric, or...
Well, I mean... I think it's the kind of the double-edged sword of there's a lot of silliness in ska, and that brings a lot of people into it, a lot of younger people into it. But I think that on the other side, the more serious punks wrote it off for being, too goofy and too many joke songs. And I mean, there's horns. Horns are divisive in rock music anyway. So I think there's a lot of cards stacked against ska, especially the third wave ska in the 90s, because it was embraced very much by even more outsiders than your average punk is an outsider.
With that being said, though, I do think that we were all the perfect age to really grasp onto it, though, especially as people that were pseudo punks, but also into more of the goofier, lighter side of things. It really did pull a lot of people in.
Yeah, for years, Five Iron Frenzy was my favorite band, period. And half the songs are very silly, and then the other half are more serious. But even the serious songs have a lot of humor to them. There's only a handful of songs that are just like outright not funny. They're just very, very serious. Or like they're like a worship type Christian song because the Five Iron is a Christian band. So,
well, so this is interesting. We're also talking about this because I do feel like this kind of plays into our record today, which I can circle back around to. But I was listening to a lot of bands from '97 because that's the year that we have drawn. And they really do work the gamma from what I consider more comedy ska, which is always what I loved, which is like the Aquabats and stuff like that, to the stuff like reggaeton. Like, I didn't realize how like reggaeton, dance, like rock steady the Slackers were. Like, I just skipped over that. And then Goldfinger is this hybrid, which is like, you know, ska punk, which I loved because I was a Warped Tour kid. So
you're just doing our job for us today. I'm
in ska overload. All I've been listening to all day is ska. So guys, I am ready to bring it.
Dylan makes fun of me because I'm always like, we can't say what we're talking about until later in the episode, whenever it's clearly in the title of the episode.
It's just the headline, like, go listen to this week's episode where we talk about Goldfinger's 1997 album. And he wants to have like 30 minutes of like intro before you even say the band's name.
Bury the lead.
Just don't.
We are talking about 1997.
Never had to knock on wood, but I know someone who has, which makes me wonder if I could. It makes me wonder if I. All systems go. Soon the world will know the fury of attack. Feel the wrath of the super rat. A super rat.
Come on, Eileen. Oh, I swear what he means at this moment. You mean everything.
Was a told better be a big loner, so we play the sky and it meant to feel better. God's got love for us, so we got love for you. It's your life, so what you wanna do? So don't delay, act now. Supplies are running out. Allowing you're still alive. 6 to 8 years to arrive, and if you follow them, be out tomorrow. But if we are the shun, you might as well be walking on the sun.
Yeah, so the premise of our show is we assign our guest a year, and then they pick an album from that year. And since we're doing SKAUGUST, we made Zia pick a ska record, even though we know you like other styles of music too.
Only ska. I only like ska. That's it.
I asked him before we invited you back on the show, like, does she really like ska that much? Like, or like, are we forcing her into this checkered suit?
No way. I definitely was a ska kid, but I was a lot of other things too. Like, I hit emo hard. I loved ska. I loved different kinds of punk, but you know, ska just was one of those amazing things that was so appealing because it just really, like we were saying, it was such like a happy, magical world of like good people and also super poppy music, which was like such a hook to me.
Yeah, it's true. I never really thought about like ska having good people in it. I can't think of like any ska bands that got canceled.
I mean, a large number of them have not been very active for a while. So who knows? But no, yeah, I've never heard anyone say like, I mean, obviously there's people like, you know, Dan Pye has who like everyone loves, but like I've never heard anyone say like, oh, Jeff Rosenstock's a dick. Like,
yeah, for me, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely associate ska not only with the music, but with a very specific group of like a type of person. Like, I always knew that like the ska kids were going to be like nice and goofy and nerdy, and I also kind of have it as a prereq for adult friendships. Like, I do kind of love it if I find a friend that I knew used to be a ska kid.
Yeah, there's something more wholesome about ska kids compared to, they don't want to get in trouble the way the punks do, and I guess
and kind of going back to our conversation with the hosts of Checkered Cast from last week, they talked about the importance of that unity message in ska, and that carried over not a ton into ska punk but it was there. And I think that that's a big difference between ska and punk, is that, like, for, the late 70s and most of the 80s, a lot of punk was in your face, no rules, rebellious, and had a lot of not great people involved in it. But ska from the beginning was like, this is all about unity, this is about racial harmony, this is all about, coming together as people and being supportive and uplifting and standing up to power. And I think a lot of that carried into the third wave, subconsciously, maybe more so than as being as much, upfront political.
You saw it a lot in the Asian Man Records bands. Mike Park always being especially political and socially aware. So like a lot of the bands on his label would also have similar messages. I guess it's when you get more into the Warped Tour vibe, then it kind of just becomes a little bit more just generalized, not so much specifically about like unity and stuff like that. But yeah, it's true. It is a genre that was founded very heavily on racial diversity. Well, it originally started in Jamaica, of course, so that's like, its own thing. So the two-tone, like 70s, 60s, or 60s, or 70s and 80s, and then like in the 90s, yeah. So yeah, that's why I guess it's kind of a prerequisite that you've got to be at least a little, conscious.
That's
if you're
true.
in the scene.
Yeah, I think that was really well put, Dylan, actually. And I just watched, I can't remember who made it, but I watched this really amazing documentary. It's like a mini doc. It's 20 minutes long on two-tone ska and its origins and kind of like where it transpired into like the probably mid to late 90s. And it's really good. Like if you type in two-tone ska doc into YouTube, it comes up. I think everybody should watch it. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, whereas like third wave ska kind of gets like joked about as like not being a very good genre, I feel like two-tone still gets a lot more respect. Like people still love the Specials and the Beat and the Selector and all those groups. So I guess it's a little further away, and maybe that's why it's not as easily made fun of. I don't feel like there were a lot of bands in the 80s doing like ska sucks like Propaganda. So
I mean, I don't know. I think you could make fun of Madness to some extent. But they definitely went much more pop. Their first record is like the only one that's like a pure ska record. But 1997, though, that is the peak, I would say, of the Warped Tour ska punk. I mean, it's the year Let's Face It by Mighty Mighty Bosstones came out. It's the year of really big records. Evildoers Beware by Mustard Plug. Got Crab Rangoon by MU330, and of course the second Aquabats record, The Fury of the Aquabats, which, let's be honest, it's really the first record.
I know, guys, I took a lot. So I listened to, like I said, I listened to a lot of these albums. I took a lot of notes on the Aquabats, a lot of notes that I'd be happy to share with you.
I listened to that entire record yesterday. And even like those...
really... Sorry, I was going to say, there's a lot of the original songs re-released on this album.
Yeah, Idiot Box, Play-Doh, is Super Rad.
They took the best ones from the first record, which we previously discussed.
Yeah, that's true. We did talk about that. And then put Magic Chicken on there.
Yeah.
And is Captain Hampton on that record too?
That's probably the low point of that. But it's got Lobster Bucket. I mean, come on.
I mean, I do think the Aquabats were the epitome of what I was looking for, like, in high school in terms of ska. Like, just goofy, silly, funny costumes. It's pretty close to pro wrestling. Like, they had people fighting on stage.
Yeah, before we started recording, you actually sent me a picture of a live Aquabat show. Is that what it was? And someone in the crowd or someone on stage is wearing a mask of a Jushin Thunder Liger mask.
Yeah, so like I guess they released a live video of one of their shows in 2003. So I never got to see the Aquabats live. So I was like, well, let's just watch it and see how crazy it is. But it's funny, they said that they used to just like invent characters to come on stage with them because it was a way to get all of their friends into the show for free, which I think is brilliant. But they had a staged fight where they had these bad guys come out from the corporate record label and battle them on stage. And one of the guys was wearing a wrestling mask. And I was like, this is the perfect crossover between like wrestling and ska.
We got to see them 2009, 10 maybe?
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't really matter what year. But
It was
they did.
it was after Charge and before Hi-Fi Soup. Was that what that
Yeah.
record was called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Closer to High Five Soup's release. So they hadn't even done the TV show yet, which is weird. Like they had like a TV show that ran for 2 seasons on a Disney related channel.
I mean,
Yeah, I
Yo
watched
Gabba
it.
Gabba had been on
True.
at that point, so.
I didn't realize they had an Aquabats show specifically. I watched a couple clips of it on YouTube.
Yeah. Very
But
kid friendly.
I did also learn, I mean, this is according to Wikipedia. Who knows if this is true, but Bobcat Goldthwait directed their first pilot in 1998.
Yeah.
So, go figure.
Yeah, I think I've watched that one too. I think either the whole thing's on YouTube or parts of it are on YouTube. And it was more like a throwback to like Batman and Robin, like late 60s type shows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, some Sid and Marty Krofft influence too.
Oh, what I was gonna say is when we saw them live, they had a fight too. I don't remember what it was. As something as simple as like a piece of cardboard that they like drew a monster face on and then just like cut out and then taped it to their friend's head and had them pretend to fight on stage. It wasn't as elaborate as some of the ones they had in the 90s where they were like going all out with the costumes, but it was still a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
They had I remember there was a present, like a birthday present with wrapping paper, like a cardboard box. I don't know what was in it, but it got like ripped up and thrown out into the audience. And I'm sure that I probably have a piece of that wrapping paper somewhere.
Oh, that's great.
I haven't seen it in a while, so it might have not made it.
So I was just about to say that the Aquabats are kind of the Gwar of ska until I realized that Gwar is ska. Like, aren't they pretty much ska? They have words.
War's a weird band. Like I've heard songs that they've recorded. They have lots of albums, but I can't tell you what any of their music sounds like at all.
I'm looking it up right now. They are billed as hardcore punk, heavy metal, shock rock. But I swear in some of their earlier stuff they have a horn section. Maybe I'm wrong.
They could. I have no
They
idea.
totally could. Yeah.
They kind of can do whatever.
Anyway.
They could do whatever they wanted.
Yeah, another conversation for another day. Anyway.
We aren't even specifically talking about the Aquabats today. Some other albums that came out in '97 that are pretty important. There's a lot of stuff that was kind of lasting. Like this is the year of, let's face it, by my Bosstones and Aquabats, Dancehall Crashers, bands like that. But this is also the year with a lot of like the lesser known groups like Mephistopheles and the Blue Meanies. Like this is kind of like the explosion of that like third tier like ska band that not as many people are familiar with, but they kind of get cred for just kind of being there when it was a big deal.
Yeah, I read somewhere that 97 was billed as the year of the American ska revival, which I think would explain why there's so many of these smaller and bigger bands all colliding at one point.
It's interesting.
I think every name that you know from 90s ska put out a record this year.
Well, with the exception of Real Big Fish and Less Than Jake, they're like the two that are missing.
Yeah.
And No Doubt, if you guys consider them ska, which I do.
Yeah, I do. At least the first couple.
Mm-hmm.
And even that one they did with Hey Baby on it is like got a lot of like reggae on it. So
Did they not put anything out in? Yeah, because
I don't.
Tragic Kingdom was
95.
95, and then they didn't do anything until 2000.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One really, really big record for me was Five Man Frenzy. They released our newest album ever, which is so gets funnier the longer that they are around. But also the OC Supertones put out Supertones Strike Back, and I listened to that record or album on CD so much in my teen years that I almost think that if you put it on now, I could probably still rap along with his terrible raps.
I was watching a bunch of Tooth and Nail music videos a few weeks back, and like I knew the words to like every Supertones song that was on there that came on. Supertones Strike Back, that has, well, the title track,
Supertones Strike Back.
but it has Unite.
Mm-hmm. Unite, Ignite, Spark a Light. Yeah.
Which, I mean, say what you will about the Supertones, they put that unity message right up front. I mean, racial harmony was a really important aspect of the Supertones.
They were an interracial group as well. Like, they had Black and Asian members, Hispanic members. Yeah. So, woke Supertones.
They got it.
I'm looking at this album cover right now, and my first thought was, man, how many people are in this band? Which is one of the funniest parts of ska bands to me, because there's always at least like anywhere from 13 to 25 members in every band.
There's
Supertones included.
Them, Five Iron Frenzy had 8 members. I looked at a couple of the other ones, and they were a lot smaller than I remembered. Like, the Aquabats had like 8 members too. The Bosstones had like a ton of people. But then, like, say Ferris, they don't necessarily have the biggest band. Like Mad Caddies, I don't think are quite as big. So these could be later pictures where a lot of the horn members are gone. So
I do wonder how many bands at this time just hired out their horn section.
Well, our record that we're talking about today has a little bit of that going on. So do we want to talk about Goldfinger?
Do we want to, before we do that, do we want to talk about this Smash Mouth record before or after we talk about Goldfinger?
Let's talk about Smash Mouth first.
Because I think that we need to talk about it. And I want to emphasize, one of my best friends from college, who's a huge ska fan, is going to be really disappointed when she hears me say this. But this is the first, I listened to this album for the first time ever today. Never heard it.
It's a banger, right?
Yeah, I was really surprised. I didn't know. I was like questioning myself because I was like, do I like Smash Mouth? Like, I had no idea. I guess that at the time I was just like so lost and so annoyed because we've all heard these singles a million times, but like the rest of the album is not anything like the singles that were on the radio.
Yeah, like Walkin' on the Sun. I listened to this record today too, because I did listen to this one probably back when I was like getting CDs from the library. So like I owned Astro Lounge.
Humble brag.
Yeah. I owned Astro Lounge because All Star was a monster song that I could not escape, and I didn't have this one, and I got it from the library after I'd listened. And I remember thinking then, when I was probably like 13, 14 maybe, it depends on, I was like, hey, this is, like, I thought this was a legit good album. Like, oh no, like real music people would like this album.
Yeah.
Not knowing that they don't really have that kind of a reputation.
I think Astro Lounge had probably lost much of its appeal for you by the end of 1990. I could definitely see how going to Fushume later and going, they're more of a serious band than I thought. I have not revisited Astro, and it's been on my mind for a couple of years to do that.
I like this idea of you waking up every morning going, should I listen to Astro Lounge today? Like,
is it today?
It's always with you. That's really it.
This one's got some punk songs on it, like straight up punk songs. So, like, if you've never listened to this one and you're only familiar with the memification of All Star, then give this one a listen, because it might, I wouldn't say change your mind on Smash Mouth, but it might give you a newfound appreciation.
Didn't they just get in trouble for being on a bill for a show that's happening soon?
Are they?
Yeah. I don't know if they've backed out of it. People were mad at them, though.
Controversy.
But I do remember they posted a lot of, like, woke stuff. Like, they were posting, like, Black Lives Matter type stuff. So, I don't know. It's kind of, you're social justice, but then you're not COVID aware. I don't know.
It's really important that Smash Mouth is holistically woke. I really need to know that they are the perfect politically conscious band.
Well, we'll reach out to them on their feelings on mask wearing, and then you guys can circle back around on the next podcast.
Okay, let's talk about Goldfinger for real now. So we gave you 1997, and you selected Goldfinger's Hang Ups. Plural or no? Yes, plural. Sorry. Some basic information about the band out of the way. They are from Los Angeles, California. They formed in 1994. This record was released on September 7th, 1997, and I meant to look up and see what else came out that week, but I forgot to. It came out on Mojo Records, and this is their second full-length album. It was produced by Jay Rifkin, and the person on this record is John Feldman on guitar and vocals, Charlie Paulson on guitar, Darren Pfeiffer on drums, and Simon Williams on bass. Also featured on the record is a pretty big horn section that are credited as additional musicians. So Goldfinger are a fake ska band because they didn't have their own horn section.
Guys, I was going to ask you that. That was my first question. Do you think Goldfinger is ska?
Well, my first note is about the first song, which I think we can go all in on in a second. But my second note from my listening to this record is Goldfinger are false ska? I thought that they were real ska and then dropped their horns later. But no, they did they pulled a no effects.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering, I don't remember them touring with horns.
Oh, they never toured with horns either?
I don't believe so. I think I saw them at Warped Tour once, and I don't remember a horn section.
I looked for clips of them when we did our pop punk bracket, and I couldn't find any video of them playing with a horn section.
Ooh, controversy.
So they are false ska.
Yes. They did it because it was popular.
So is that a requirement of ska? You have to have a permanent horn section that is permanent members of the band. They can't just be hired guns.
No.
Because
Operation Ivy didn't have horns.
True.
Oh,
and they're like every 90s ska band is influenced by Operation Ivy. So
Because I was also talking to somebody today about how ska sometimes has a uniform, and these guys don't have the typical ska uniform, but they have the ska punk uniform, which was like Dickies and worker shirts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we did an episode a couple months ago with Adam Yo, and we did a 90s pop punk bracket, and we included Goldfinger on there because I don't know why I specifically chose them for it, but
they were on a soundtrack. They're on
the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack. So I guess that was kind of my thinking. Is like I always had them tied in my head as like a 90s pop punk band, even though I know they had horns and they had ska songs. But we had a lot of people saying I wouldn't have put Goldfinger on there. They're not pop punk. But it's like, well, they're both. I feel like,
yeah,
especially this record. Yeah, they got plenty of songs that are just palm muted, crunchy pop punk guitars.
Some really fast drumming on a couple of songs. Very Fat Wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
at the fat drumming.
They have a lot of upstrokes.
They do. And that's like, they tend to do those on the songs where there's a horn section. But then they would pepper it in every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listening to it, I was surprised at how rhythmically diverse their songs were. It wasn't like it was all skate punk and they had horns sometimes. There were like songs that didn't really have the horn section that were kind of had that bounce to it. So it's hard to say.
I made a note that I definitely feel they have an influence of ska punk. Like I would consider them more ska punk, like the Suicide Machines over, strictly ska. But I did make a note that, so like 8 songs in, not to jump the gun, but they have a song called Carlita. And I said that's when it becomes a ska album, because that's when the horns start. Like the whole last half of the album is like loaded with ska songs.
Yeah,
it starts with Superman, and then the next several songs there's like no horns until, well, there's some horns in The Lonely Place. Well, okay, I have a note here that says, this lonely place has horns, but I'm not sure it's ska. It sounds like a 70s or 80s sitcom theme song. So there's your game show theme song sound.
My note was that this lonely place was more of a white boy reggae song.
It definitely had like that like piano dun, 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 kind of vibe to it, like Welcome Back Kotter or something.
Boyfriend, you come around to feel the pain. It was yesterday he tried to use you, but you still go through it again. You took it away. Again, you let yourself stay. I've been around this lonely place before. I've been around this lonely place before.
Yeah, you're right, because my head, if only has some upstrokes halfway through the song. 20 Cent Goodbye. 20 Cent Goodbye has like some raspy dude singing towards the end of the song. I don't know who that was.
Wait, did we cover that? What was the guy's name? Is Mike Herrera on this record?
No, he's not on this one. He's like a member post like 2005 or something like that. He's like a touring member, and I think he's on some of the records now.
Wait, he really is in?
Yeah, Mike Herrera's in Goldfinger now.
I found this out today. I didn't know that. I found this out because Goldfinger has put up a couple of YouTube videos in quarantine where the whole band plays Superman and a couple of other songs. And let me say first, it's lovely. You guys should go watch it immediately. It really warmed my heart. But Mike is in those videos because he's the bass player. So I didn't connect it all until I saw it.
It's so funny that like he has gone from just doing MXPX full time to just filling. He has like a country thing that he does sometimes called Tumbledown, which is just Mike Herrera doing country songs, and he does not have a country voice. And then he's playing with Goldfinger. I want to say he's probably even toured with other people too. It's just funny. He's wanting to make that his full-time job, but it doesn't seem like the world wants MXPX full-time though.
It's all he's ever known.
It is. Like,
I mean,
he was in high
teenager,
school.
He was in a successful pop punk band.
Yeah, I would try to make that last as long as possible because I'm sure he doesn't have very many life skills outside of being in a band and touring.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the horn section. So, the horn section...
You're not going to let this go. You really want to hash this out.
Well, what made me decide that they were a poser ska band was looking at the horn section and then reading the Wikipedia that was like, they gathered many musicians from the Orange County ska scene to make up the horn section. So I was like, who are these people? So this record features Angelo Moore of Fishbone, Gabriel McNair of No Doubt, Scott Klopfenstein and Dan Regan of Real Big Fish, and also like a couple other guys: Garth Schultz, Mike Menchaca, Kip Witzfeld, Jonas Cabrera, and then they even have Paul Hampton of Fishbone on keys on this record too. So yeah, they were just like, let's just get all the good ska bands from around the area.
I guess that gives them some credibility. If you're gonna hire out your horn section, get some all-stars like a member of Fishbone. That's crazy.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
no doubt,
they shot for the moon.
I'm looking at the credits. There are 5 different engineers listed on this record and 5 mixing assistants. It really doesn't sound that big budget. It's pretty slick.
Well, Mojo was... So, Jay Rifkin started Mojo and then sold it to Universal like a year later. So they hadn't really done much by the time they sold it to Universal. And I was looking up other records that Mojo put out. And do you want to know what else they were responsible for? They released Cherry Poppin' Daddy's Zoot Suit Riot.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
The same year, I believe. Which is kind of like... Bosstones was the explosion of ska, and then the Cherry Poppin' Daddies was like the death of ska. In like, as far as a mainstream sense, even though they were a swing revival band, not a ska band, but they harmed the image of ska so much.
Mm-hmm.
Mojo Records also released albums by Limp Bizkit.
That's what it
Oh
says.
my God.
I couldn't find any proof of that. I don't know if that's just a Wikipedia thing or not. Because if you look at all of Limp Bizkit's albums on Wikipedia, they're all listed as like Interscope and Jive. Like they're not. There's no Mojo Records. They did release fucking Weston.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Good old beach slang.
Also, John Feldman, who is the lead singer, he has a ton of... I was looking at him. He's had a very successful career. He has a ton of credits as like a producer and an A&R guy, like all the way into 2020. Like he's still working and has put out a lot of really good music, not including Godsmack. That was a questionable one, but...
He also did Hilary Duff and Ashley Simpson records. I don't know if he produced them, but he wrote songs too. So he's kind of like he's like the Semisonic guy, who writes songs for other people and they all become hits. So as big as hits as Hilary Duff and Ashley Simpson were.
And you know what? I just want to retract my statement because I'm looking at the list now. He did like associate with a lot of really big acts, but I want to emphasize that these are not typically acts I'm into, but they're successful, like Papa Roach, The Used, All Time Low, Panic at the Disco,
Good Charlotte.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He did those 5 Seconds of Summer albums too, which was like trying to do the pop punk thing, sort of, in like, what, 2013 or something, like mainstream version of it.
He did have an association with Foxy Shazam, which is one of my like secret loves. I love Foxy Shazam.
He does have a relationship with Escape the Fate, so that's a bad sign on his part too. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is...
I think I found I know that everyone was wondering about this, but on the Wikipedia page for $3 Bill Y'all by Limp Bizkit, it says that Wes Borland left Limp Bizkit preceding a successful performance opening for Korn at the Dragonfly in Hollywood due to a disagreement with Fred Durst. Limp Bizkit signed with Mojo, a subsidiary of MCA Records. So they signed, but I don't think they ever released anything.
And then just did everything with Interscope after that.
Yes.
Which he was like an executive at Interscope, I think, too.
Yeah.
You guys just want to make this a Limp Bizkit podcast now? Because we can do that, no problem. Just give me a second to shift gears. Shouldn't be a problem.
Go put on your Jinko jeans.
Wait, hold on. I got to turn my hat backwards.
It's not red, though.
No.
Where are you now? I want to talk to you. I'm sitting here alone, waiting by the phone. Where are you now? I want to talk to you. If only you were home, I wouldn't be alone. I wait for you. Where are are you now? Are you just toying with me? Do you need me to play all your high school games? Where are you now? I guess I'll try once more. I don't have much to say, but it's the 10th call that I made, and it's ringing in my head. Yeah, the last thing that you said now is to me.
All right, should we dig in on Superman?
Guys, I can't wait to talk about Superman. I'm like bursting to talk about Superman.
We have digressed a lot.
Yeah. We got called out for like an episode that we did not too long ago being our most digressive episode. So let's talk about Superman.
Guys, this song rocks.
It's so good.
It's so good. Like I've listened to the CD a couple of times since we decided on it, but it's so hard for me not to just keep putting Superman on repeat over and over and over again. It's just like, it was good then, it's good now. And it was my favorite song from the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack, by far.
Oh yeah, I just have vivid memories of playing that game and hearing this song. You know what's funny though? Listening to this song to do this episode, I noticed a bridge and a guitar solo that I have no memory of. As many times as I've heard this song, did they edit the song for the game?
They faded
probably
out. It's too long for the runtime of a trial, which is like a 2-minute trial, I think is how long they run in the game. So they fade it out. And so, yeah, it loses a bridge and a last chorus on the Tony Hawk soundtrack. So, like, every time I hear it on this album, I'm like, what's happening? Like, I'm disoriented. I was like, what? They changed it. It's like, no, it was always like that. It's just, they needed it shorter for the level.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's great. It takes me back.
My world kind of shattered too, because while we were getting ready for this episode, I was looking up Goldfinger music videos, and I was trying to pull up the video for Superman, because I distinctly remember in the Tony Hawk's game, there is like a screen playing in one of the levels, and it has like the music videos playing, and they have Goldfinger on one of them. He's wearing his suit and his bleached hair, like you could see it pretty clearly. And that's not a video for Superman. It's a video for Here in My Bedroom. There is no video for Superman.
That's a shame.
I guess they were like, no one will notice. But then why would they bother to put that in there then?
I don't know. I actually find that surprising because like this felt like the biggest song of all time. You'd think they'd make a music video for it.
Right. Like they chose This Lonely Place as the lead single for the album. And like not Superman. Like, well, that was your mistake. Because they were like, This Lonely Place was a big disappointment it didn't sell nearly as well as Here in My Bedroom. It's like, yeah, because you didn't pick Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they would have been huge if Superman had been released as a proper single and had MTV airplay. Like, they would be massive. And they certainly had a huge boost from being on the Tony Hawk soundtrack. But
that was 99.
I think the mainstream crossover possibilities of Superman being a single, getting radio play, getting music video play, they would be like the Bosstones.
Mm-hmm.
Or at the very least more like, yeah, they would have been more like the Bosstones and less like Real Big Fish would sell out. Like a sellout had some radio play, but like Goldfinger had some radio play with Here in My Bedroom. So yeah.
And 99 Lust Balloons, that one took off too. That was everywhere.
Yeah, that was another big one. Was that the one where they're like the album cover is like them in a city like trying to destroying the city and like laser beams coming out of their eyes? And I distinctly remember that CD being at Walmart for like years, and like you scan it, that little thing that plays like 10 seconds of a clip from like 3 different songs, and I was always like, do I want to buy this? Never pulled the trigger.
That album cover is so bad.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's like Japanese, like kaiju big battle-esque.
Yeah.
There is some news. There is some 2020 news regarding this Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Did you guys see that they're re-releasing the soundtrack for this?
Yeah, they just like announced like last week like the full lineup because it's gonna have like the original soundtrack plus like new songs. And I don't remember who's on the new soundtrack.
Mm.
Let's find out.
Yeah, I gotta pull that up.
So it's the 1 and 2 remaster.
It'll be
It
both
is
games.
missing a few of the original songs.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple songs they couldn't get.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
Psychovision by Suicidal Tendencies, Committed by Unsane, Bring the Noise.
Yeah. What was the new? There's
Yeah.
some new ones too.
You know what they should do? They should just put New Girl by the Suicide Machines and Superman by Goldfinger on repeat, and that should be the re-release soundtrack. Just like keep replaying those songs over and over again. No one will even notice. It'll be fine.
Wow, 37 new songs?
I guess because the capabilities are so much higher now with those things. So I'm not a gamer now, so I have no idea what that's even gonna look like.
Mm-hmm. Well, this song is Superman is a banger. It is so good. It's still so good. It makes me extremely happy to listen to it. And also it's very relatable. The lyrics kind of strike with me.
Yeah. I have my other note on this is I relate to the lyrics of this song too much. There was
Yeah.
I don't even remember what the lyrics are, honestly.
I have to look them up.
I just got the chorus running around in my head. I guess the getting older all the time.
Yeah,
Feel
that,
younger
yeah,
in my mind.
that hits.
It's just kind of it's about getting older and trying to figure out who you are and wanting to be a Superman and doing it all.
I can't read the lyrics of this song without doing the song in my head.
You get that guitar melody. The melody and that, it's like the perfect ska guitar tone. They really did.
I even love the
nail that.
the rolling snare at the beginning. I love how that sounds too.
Yeah, it's great. I thought the first 3 songs on this album really flow well into each other. I think they're all good.
They are some of the stronger tracks. What do you think of the rest of the album, though? We can't live off just Superman alone.
Well, let's not say things we don't mean here. Yeah, I think the
could
rest of
probably
the album
listen
is
to 40
fine.
Oh, wait, you both spoke over each other. Which one of you go first?
I just want to say I could probably listen to 40 minutes of just Superman. So.
I think it starts off strong. I think it starts off strong. I think the rest of the album kind of just blends in. Nothing really sticks out that much, but I do think that this is a good album. I found it enjoyable to listen to, and I don't know what that says about my musical tastes as an adult, but
What did you think of the song SMP?
oh my lord, I hated it so much.
That was a Rage Against the Machine parody, right?
Yeah, totally.
It makes me so upset to suddenly just hear this new metal song in the middle of this.
If only I was taller, if I had $1 million, maybe then you'd be with me. If only I was 18 and had the courage of the 18, maybe then you'd be with me. But for now, I have to dream about your smile, 'cause you're not here, and all I wanna say is that I really miss you.
How old was John when this record came out? Because there are a lot of lyrics about aging. Because the song "If Only," track 3, is about me saying, "If only I was 18 and had the courage of the A team, then maybe you'd be with me." There's a line in here that kills me. "If only I had more time. If I had Mike Ness's hairline, then you'd want to be with me."
Okay, so I'm so happy you asked that because this is one of my favorite games to play. How old was this person during this time period? And I just did some mental math, and I think that he was around 30.
Yeah,
Oh,
he was born in 1967. So in 1997 he would have been 30. So that actually makes sense. I feel like 30 is when it's like the first time in your life where you are like, oh, I'm getting older. I don't like this. Like,
I will say though, Mike Ness's hairline in 1997 wasn't amazing. It was receding pretty.
I have to say,
aggressively.
watching the quarantine videos of them, I have to say though, they all pulled it together. Like they all grew up and like look pretty good, and like they're pretty well put together, especially when you compare it to that awful record cover we were talking about where they're in like Jankos and have bleached hair. Like they look great. Like they're really doing good now.
now John did have bleached hair pretty much the entire time. Who's in the band that was in the band in 97 though? Looks like they're okay. Charlie Paulson like left the band, came back, left the band, and came back. So he's in it now. Simon Williams is not in the band now. That's what my career is doing. And Darren Pfeiffer is not in the band anymore either. So we got Charlie and John in there. So we got two of them. We got the. Did you know Travis Barker was in the band briefly too?
I mean, what band was he not in the 90s? I mean,
Yeah.
This was 2016.
oh, well,
Yeah, it's not like he needed money. Blink
yeah,
is doing
he
just fine.
He just does things for fun. I mean,
He
he'll
was
play
in the
on
Aqu-
anything if he likes it. Yeah, he was
in
in
the Aquabats too.
Mm-hmm.
in like
The first lineup.
96.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, what did you guys think of this record then? Because I've already confessed that like this, I thought it's great, but now I'm feeling like you both were punished through this record. So I want to hear your opinion.
Dylan texted me and said, "I hope Zia doesn't like this record."
I do, but I also think I have bad taste in music. So.
I mean, I can't say I have good taste in music. It was hit or miss more than anything, I think. I think it started off pretty strong and it dipped in the middle pretty hard. I thought, in particular, some of the songs like 20% Goodbye, This Lonely Place, they were pretty bad.
I liked This Lonely Place's chorus. I was kind of hooked by most of the choruses. I liked the Disorder chorus, like the melody in there. I really liked Carlita. That's like a straight up ska song, and I think that's the guy from Fishbone singing on it too. After Carlita is probably where I'm like, it's fine. Like, it's just kind of filler. I don't like the last song. Chris Satan.
I called you Satan.
So I wrote, is this a death song? Like it sounded like a memorial song, but I looked him up. He's not dead, so it's not a death song.
It's like that Bosstones song where we were like, on that last one you were on, it was like it was about a person. And I was like, is this person dead?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was then either.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was
In
a
Memoriam
joke song.
In Memoriam ska songs is like a pretty interesting thing to delve into. I don't think a lot of them exist. I don't know if it's possible because they're all going to be upbeat with horns, and that seems disrespectful. But
like Five Iron Frenzy has one too, Combat Chuck, and it's like their most hated song. Like they think it's their worst song ever. It's not great. It is one of their. So maybe it's just like songs about specific people are just not usually very good.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because we did that Dropkick Murphys album that had like the spicy McHaggis jig on it, and we were like, "This is the worst song on the record."
Yeah, that was a
This is a side note, but you know what I did kind of realize about a lot of these ska records that we were looking at from '97? There's just too many songs. Like there's too many damn songs on these albums.
Yeah, I saw the running time for this album was like over an hour. It was like an hour and 16 minutes, and I was like, "Oh no!" And then I realized it had like 30 minutes of like blank silence at the end of Chris Caton because it had like 2 hidden tracks on there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still like a 40-minute album. I would have trimmed this down to 10 songs and probably been done with it. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did have a moment where there's a song called If Only. It's the third song. And I liked that one too. And I had a moment where I was like, man, should I put this on like a mix for somebody? And I was like, I can't do that. I am too old to put a Goldfinger song on a mix for someone.
unless it's Superman.
Unless it's Superman.
And then it's just Superman for 40 minutes straight.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I get it. You guys just wish this whole album sounded like SMP, like Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
So I get it. It's okay. That would have made it better.
it really needed to lean more into the funk metal influences, which I just saw that skiers must perish is what SMP stands for. So is it an anti-skiing, snowboarding only song?
Well, what are the lyrics of that song about? SMP by Goldfinger lyrics. Let's see.
There's something about the cold wind blowing across your face.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the kill, it's the thrill of the chase.
It just sounds like a pro skiing song. It's like being in bed with a girl of your dreams or eating a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream.
Welcome to the We Read Goldfinger Lyrics podcast.
We should start a song-by-song Goldfinger podcast.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you guys for humoring me to listen to this record. I'm sorry that there's mixed reviews.
Well, I think we ran the spectrum. You love it. I like most of it. I'd say I'm more positive on it than Dylan is, and Dylan's more on the bottom side.
Yeah, I didn't care for much in the last half. After Disorder, Carlita was good.
I liked Authority has a little bit of like a Green Day vibe to it. I like that one. The Last Time has a cool key change in it. I like that one.
I think it feels very time period specific, and I do think that sometimes with albums, like because I listened to this album a lot when I was a kid or younger, or when I was like a teen. So I think that there's probably some levels there where it feels very nostalgic, and it sounds like every other band from that time, honestly.
Yeah, that's a question we've been asking people whenever we once they pick the album. We like to ask, like, why did you specifically choose the album that you did? So is it because it was one that you had and listened to a lot when you were younger?
I think, you know what? So I remember when we were first trying to decide, like, it was a pretty hard decision because there were so many solid albums from that year. I do think I chose Goldfinger because I thought that going with the ska punk angle would be like a little bit more diverse compared to like the other ska albums you guys are probably going to talk about. But I do think I probably chose it because of Superman, because I knew how good that song was. And it's like, that song is the whole album.
It's so funny that you specifically made a choice to pick more of like a blending when the album we did last week was Kamen Rider, which is kind of a ska punk record too. So
Yeah.
it's
So never mind, I failed.
so it's just like, it's funny that you both picked similar reasons.
Yeah,
Don't worry,
so
we've got
hard.
a bracket coming up that's gonna cover everybody.
Yeah,
so
we're gonna cover all the bases.
Yeah, it really did come down to Aquabats, Goldfinger, or Dance Hall Crashers. But I saw that Dance Hall Crashers album was 15 songs long, and that was like, I crossed it off immediately.
Yeah, I mean it's the CD era.
yeah.
Everyone had a ton of room, so they felt like they needed to use it.
Yeah. Well, that Aquabats is 16 tracks, so
Yeah,
there are
and
some
even in the re-listen, I didn't get through all 16 tracks of that Aquabats.
yeah. Attacked by Snakes definitely gets cut because it's 5 minutes long.
I have the LP reissue of that came out. Yeah,
Double
it
up.
needed to be a double album. Like it had to be 51 minutes long.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's just a problem that like all records have from this time period. I think it's like every band has like a hidden song on their albums because they can. Like it's just it's like it was a technology that didn't really exist before. Like you could have those really, really long tapes, but most bands didn't really have, because during the tape period was still also the vinyl period. So it wasn't, I guess, until like the CD era like fully took over that's when it was like, all right, we're going to use this hour and 20 minute runtime. There won't be music on all of it, but
Yeah, we're gonna make sure to include an in joke at the very end after you thought that your CD was done playing.
hidden
20 minutes
tracks on
later, someone
podcasts.
pops up and starts screaming.
I don't even know if I ever heard these hidden songs before. I didn't know they existed. Like, I don't even think I made it that far into the album when I listened to when I was younger, but I definitely had no idea there were hidden tracks.
They're pointless too. Like, did you listen to them this time?
Yeah, I did. They don't do much for me.
No. It's like a weird acoustic song. Is that what that was? And then like some live sounds at the end. I didn't know what the point of it was.
You know what they should have done? They should have made the hidden song Superman again.
I think the 5 Iron Frenzy record from this year also has a hidden.
Oh, it definitely does.
What is it? Is it the Kingdom of the Dinosaurs? Or is that...
It's the Godzilla song.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, did we cover everything in our notes?
I did.
Yeah, I think I did too.
Oh, I do have one note. So I was curious, like, who this Jay Rifkin guy was, because he also produced the record. He owned Mojo Records. Turns out he's friends with Hans Zimmer, the composer. He's written music for tons of soundtracks, and he is the co-writer of Hakuna Matata.
Wow. They should have done Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, because it's 97. Lion King came out, 94? So, yeah, they had plenty of time to do that. Oh, they couldn't get the clearance, though, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right.
They didn't want to pay those licensing fees for a hidden track version of Hakuna Matata.
I had another note about the Aquabats. Do you guys know who Paul Frank is? He was an artist that was big in, like, the 90s. He made this, like, little like, figure called Batmaru. He was, like, a little penguin. Very, like, Japanese style.
I think so.
I've seen it. Yeah.
He's very famous. I guess he was in the 90s. But he designed the logo for the Aquabats belt, which I had no idea. But this is before he became famous, because I guess he's from that whole West Coast scene with them. I found that to be a very interesting little fact.
What is that bat's name? I think he has a name. I'm trying to find the thing. What's the thing you said that he created? I just keep seeing a monkey.
Well, you've seen that monkey, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the monkey a lot.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, he was... I'm thinking, yeah, so he did the monkey, and the monkey was everywhere.
Like what, like baby tees?
All the things. Yeah,
Pajamas,
like bags.
Vinyl backpacks and this clear vinyl backpacks.
Very 90s.
Pencil cases.
So, yeah, that's it. That's all my ska facts. I also, I do think that doing this made me realize that I want to revisit that Slackers record, Red Light, because I think I appreciate it more now than I did at the time.
The Slackers were really good. I had a little period in college, leading out of college, where I listened to a lot of Slackers records. Just like a friend of mine, my ska friend from college, had like a bunch of their CDs on his iTunes, and I just copied them and a bunch of other ska CDs and other records from him. So I wound up hearing a lot of those songs on shuffle. I've been meaning to revisit them because I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, they're the Slackers, and then like the Toasters, the Pie Tasters, and Hepcat, like all those ska bands that were like kind of lumped in with the third wave ska thing, but they were also borrowing very heavily from like traditional like rocksteady and like soul elements. Like they didn't quite get like the cool factor in the 90s, but their albums probably hold up a little better now. Like they don't feel as immediately dated, or at least like in the moment of 97, like a Save Ferris.
Yeah, it's good. I made a note that because I breezed through a couple of the songs on Red Light, and because actually it was pretty well revered, I guess, or regarded at the time, but I put that it felt more adult because it's like more reggae, rock steady. It's like more chill and complex. And at that time, like I just was interested in like funny horns and like melodies and like Real Big Fish and stuff like that. So my brain wasn't quite with this vibe, but I think I am with this vibe now. They're very two-tone.
Yeah. I did really enjoy, I looked up the Potshot record and the Kamuri record that came out that year, and they're both Japanese ska bands, and I know they have like the Asian Man Records like connection, and Mike Park was in Kamuri at one point, and I was like, damn, these are like really good. Why aren't they as well regarded as like a MU330 or, you know, a Less Than Jake at the time. I don't know. That may just be the Asian Man Records thing. That tends to happen to a lot of those bands. They don't quite get they weren't as popular.
Kamiri was formed in Oxnard, California, but they are currently based in Tokyo.
Yeah. And like most of the band is Japanese, but Mike Park's Korean, and he quit the band after the first record. And it made me wonder if they went with like an all Japanese lineup.
Well, if they went back to...
Well, that was like later, in the 2000s when they went back to Japan. He left right after this record in 97. So he even sings a song on that album. Like, that's cool.
You can listen.
Yeah. And Potshot, I think one of the members of Potshot, I think plays in some other bands currently, but I can't think of who they are. The names aren't familiar. I guess that'll do it for the main show. Zia, thanks so much for doing the show again. Coming back to talk more ska.
Yeah, guys, it was great. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like very exhausted from my ska overload day, but pretty thrilled. I feel like I have some new ska songs I'm going to start filtering into my repertoire, and now you guys never have to listen to Goldfinger Hang-Ups ever again.
Yeah, we won't have to talk about this one again. We didn't even get to talk about your photography at the top of the show. Today, I showed you before we started recording that the Bad Light Volume 2 came out, which features your photography in it. It's a photo book of just wrestling photography, put together by...
Michael Watson, Brainbuster. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. He has been doing this, treating wrestling photography as an actual art form instead of just more like sports photography isn't so much, which you were part of his podcast, the Bad Light podcast, and the first episode of it, and that episode was great. Oh,
thank you. That's so nice you listened. Yeah. I'm so stoked that he asked me to be a part of that book. That's pretty much the extent of all the photography that I am doing these days, but he's great. Mike is great because he's a maker, so he keeps making. So like it keeps me involved in like going through my archive, and like it's nice that I was able to contribute some stuff because it also makes me feel like I'm somewhat relevant still in some kind of way. But it's cool. I'm really happy that I was a part of that. I think there's still copies left too. Highly recommended. It's almost like a zine, but beefed up.
Yeah, there are these nice cardstock covers and like bound, whatever, perfect bound, I think is what that's called, when it's like a spine, like an actual spine on it. Yeah, your shots in here are great. You've got a couple really cool ones, like the real casual Jushin Thunder, like, well, the Liger next to some mops and brooms. I love that one. And the Tanahashi after the match with his perfect hair.
Oh, his beautiful hair.
I don't know if a lot of people are familiar. I assume that we have some wrestling fans who listen to this, but I guess, one of your most famous pieces, maybe? I mean, you might know better than I would be the original Orange Cassidy t-shirt. And then Orange Cassidy signed with AEW and like kind of blew up on like the mainstream wrestling scene. But I think your shirts were the first ones on TV for a while there. Or not your shirts, but your photo that was used on his shirts. And now there's like a newer one, which I think is another photographer in the same zine as well. But it's just crazy to think that like someone that you've photographed and known for years is on the main stage of the Wednesday Night Wars.
Yeah, it's wild. It's like a real wild world. Like I really I think I talked about this on the other podcast, but like wrestling, like the indie wrestling scene is so much like punk rock. There's like this natural crossover, but it was really similar, just like being a roadie. Like I just would go on the road with these guys and like sleep on floors in hotel rooms and stuff and just photograph them all the time. So it's cool that like people are on TV, like on very major networks, like finally getting exposure for like all their hard work. But yeah, so it's crazy when like you sit back and you're like, oh, that's my photo. It's just on TNT right now. No big deal.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. It's humbling.
Tell people where they can look at your photos and like where your social media handles are and all that.
Sure. I think you can find me on Instagram under Zia Shoots Wrestling. It is very rarely updated, but I do have some stuff there, and you can check out the old footage. I've been very lazy in quarantine. All I do is just go on walks and watch Baywatch, which we can get into some other time. But yeah, Zia Shoots Wrestling is my Instagram, so you can find me there.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's everything. Well, I wanted to ask too, like, I guess since COVID, it kind of like ruined any like chances of taking photos at wrestling shows. And were you slated to do any of that WrestleMania stuff, or were you just gonna stick to back home?
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about WrestleMania. Yeah, I had. Yeah, it was booked for Florida back in the old times. Was that April? Yeah, I had tickets. I was gonna go down to. I don't even remember what I was gonna shoot now, but yeah, I had a bunch of shows lined up, and the WrestleMania weekend is always like a big weekend for people involved in pro wrestling because it's like a family reunion for all of us. It's kind of cool. Everybody just gets together from all over the country and like other countries, and we all get to like meet up and catch up. So I had a lot of stuff planned, but it all went to the wayside.
Yeah, it's so funny because anytime I ever hear people talk about like going to WrestleMania, like I don't even want to go to the main WrestleMania show. I just want to go to the hundreds of other shows and conventions and stuff that happen because it sounds very, very similar to what Fest is in Gainesville every year. It's just like the whole city becomes Fest. So like restaurants and shops and all the clubs, like it's all Fest people, and that's what the vibe I get from like the way WrestleMania weekend has kind of evolved, and it's like that just for wrestling now.
Yeah, well, if we ever resume to normal life again, I will. Well, you should definitely come because it's just like that. I don't think I ever go to WrestleMania. I do the same thing. I go to all the sideshows. I was gonna plan a big event where I was gonna invite like extended wrestler family and like punks to have a night where we all played shuffleboard and had to dress in nice clothing. So just like a cute little family reunion at the shuffleboard lanes, but you know, we'll save it for another time.
Yeah, probably not next year, but maybe the year after. We'll see.
We'll see. If we ever get there, you know what, we'll see. But I'm happy to be your spirit guide. It's a lot like Fest. It's like you just kind of like go, you just follow the person that you run into, and you end up at all different cool places. So. Well,
thank you so much for being on the show. Dylan seems to have disappeared. I don't know what's going on there. But we're on all forms of social media as well. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Punk Lotto Pod. Yeah, we're all over the place. So get in touch and follow us there. And that'll do it for this week. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.